It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Introducing new PANADO Pediatric Syrup 5ml sachets. They're really convenient to pack and easy to use, so you're always prepared for pain and fever, anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and hopefully you are feeling good. I know around this time of the year, sometimes we ain't feeling so hot. If you've just joined us, we are talking all things health and wellness this Tuesday morning, and I think continuously educating ourselves for future experiences or events will make it that much easier to cope when they do actually hit us, especially when it comes to headaches. We hate them. I think more so as a parent, you hate seeing them in your kids. And joining us to unpack headaches in teenagers is Dr. Michelle Merrington. Doc, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Graham.
Busy time of the year for you, I would imagine, around this time, because we're all feeling a little under the weather. A headache is kind of a universal truth. It's something that we experience as adults, and it can be awful when we experience it. We have a myriad of reasons, generally tied to stress, I think, as grown-ups.
Oftentimes.
What can cause a headache in a teenager, and how alarmed should we be? What's going on?
So I like to think of headaches kind of as primary or secondary.
Okay.
And generally, when we speak of primary headaches, you're thinking headaches where the pain is the primary problem. It's not, in other words, associated with...
Okay, it's not a knock-on effect.
Yes, it's not a symptom of something else. So those types of headaches are headaches that are usually associated with, be it muscle tension in the head and neck, it could be related to blood vessels and blood supply to the brain, or it could be overstimulation of the kind of nerves in the brain. There's also a genetic component when it comes to primary headaches. So, you know, where parents experience certain headache syndromes, the kids may experience something similar. And a common example of that would be migraine-type headaches, where your secondary headaches are headaches that are associated with something else. And it could be of an infection or trauma, that type of thing, but it's not necessarily...
or something like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anything related to the head terrifies me as a parent, I've got to say, and rightly so. I suppose you don't want to ever cross that line, but when should the alarm bells be going off? When does that pain indicate that something, or what level of pain indicates that something is definitely needs to be addressed?
So like you said, it is an extremely common symptom, and you don't necessarily want to take your kid to the doctor with every old little mention of a headache, but the things that I think parents should regard as what I would call red flags would be a headache that is persistent or increasing in severity. So not resolving, you know, within, I don't know, a few minutes or what you would expect, I suppose, as a parent. A child who, or a teenager in particular, will describe it as, this is my worst headache I've ever described. Listen to that. A headache that's associated with fever or neck stiffness or vomiting, definitely sinister and worth investigating.
Just keep thinking meningitis.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then headaches that are kind of that wakes a child in the middle of the night, or when they wake up and it is present already. Generally, those are not good and is worth mentioning to a doctor and may need to like investigation.
And I know that obviously on the far end of that spectrum, when we get into the migraine or migraine space, it can get really hectic, and that's a slightly different beast in itself. So if you are having those persistent headaches at that level, you definitely need to see someone.
To see someone, absolutely. And then don't forget that when headaches are associated with other symptoms like a child who is unsteady, so is not walking kind of, you know, normally, so an unsteady gait. A headache that's associated with weakness, so you may notice that the child's eyelid, for example, you know, one eye is not closing as it should, or confusion, where you know, the level of consciousness is not quite what you know that, or because as parents, I think we all know our children.
Yeah, you know them better than anyone else.
So when you notice that they are not quite themselves, so to speak, pay attention.
Shame. I'm just imagining right now every parent out there has just grabbed their child and they're like staring into their eyes,
my doctor.
shaking them, testing their temperature. They're okay, guys. They're absolutely okay. All of this being said, and I get quite emotional about this, and it's ridiculous, but it kills me. There's nothing worse than my child being in pain and not being able to do something about it. I lean on paracetamol every day. My wife has when she was pregnant, and I think that's when we kind of started to understand its range and how safe it is to use.
Absolutely.
When is paracetamol your go-to?
So paracetamol is actually regarded as the first line or first step in pain management by the World Health Organization.
Wow, okay.
And one of the key reasons for that is that it has a really good safety profile.
Yeah.
So you need very high doses for it to be toxic. So in other words, you need a significant overdose for it to be regarded as toxic. And also it can be used across a wide range of ages. So you can start really young and safe to use in the elderly as well, with exceptions, of course. And then also very few interactions with other drugs. So it's definitely one of the first kind of medicines, or one of the a medicine every parent should have in their cupboard when it comes to treating pain and fever in children. It has a really kind of quick onset of action, so within 30 to 40 minutes you can appreciate its effect, and it reaches its peak after about an hour. So in terms of taking a paracetamol syrup or tablet, you can expect results relatively quickly for mild to moderate pain.
I love that. Not that teenagers are going to need the nice tasting syrup, but at least it is available for the young'uns in that. And as always, we say just read the pack, guys. Read the pack for the dosage amounts, especially with your child being slightly older or weighing slightly more than when you first introduced paracetamol into their lives. At least we've got this at our fingertips. Doc, thank you so much. You've been wonderful to have today. I'm missing my children even more now. With all this information at our fingertips, we are bound to be alert and ready to help should our teenagers have a headache.
Being a parent can be challenging, but stepping out is when things get real complicated. That's why new PANADO Pediatric Syrup 5 ml sachets are here to make the job easier. They're really convenient to pack and easy to use, so you're always prepared for pain and fever, anytime, anywhere. PANADO, a dose of care.